Hi, I'm Carla. I'm a food addict, compulsive eater, and bulimic. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write them down, I call them in, I eat them, nothing else in between. Just for today, abstinence is the most important thing in my life, without exception. And my abstinence date is March 31st, 2007. It's very nice to be here. I want to start off and show a picture that I just recently my best friend sent it to me. And I don't know if it's just me, but it really shows all 325 pounds I had to get to be. Oh, it's not turned on. Victor, can you do that for me? That'd be so great. Oh, sorry. Then I just sent you a request. That's no fun. So, I so I came into these rooms. I was 325 pounds. I thank you. Okay, here's where you get to see all my stuff. So there I am. I'm the one on the right. Well, I don't know which side I am. And I was miserable. That was my uniform. That is, what I uh, could fit into, what I could find. Those pants were a 4X. Um, and it was, we were camping, and camping pretty much meant um, pulling up. It took everything I could to just put up a tent, and a walk would be to the bathroom and back. My mobility was really limited. My emotional bandwidth was really limited. My mental capacity was really limited. And that was in part because of the food, but also I was, in the food. At some point, the food wouldn't work alone, and so I was, using other substances to numb out. And so I was a mess. Shortly after, well, at some point on that trip, I picked a fight with my best friend, and we had a horrible rest of the time. I have made amends to her for that and many other things. Thank goodness she's still my bestie. So I'll come back from there a little bit. I don't know whether I was born a compulsive eater, but I know that I started behaving in a way that doesn't seem normal with food at a very early age. My mom used to hide the round things that, some people would dunk in the moo. And she had a thing where she just would say she only had one in the morning. And early on, when I would sneak and find her stash, and that one was never enough. It was ridiculously not enough, and it was just so, yeah. And so I started, I snuck food all the time. And it didn't matter. I was already eating things that no one else would consider a snack, the things that went on the outside of the, you know, anyhow, food that, is not food in and of itself, was used to make other things. And I was born many years after my sister and brother, and my parents, they were almost out of the parenting game. And I just can't even imagine what it would have been like to then find out, that I was pregnant and have to do it again. I don't think it was really my mom's jam to start with. She's been gone since I was in my early 20s, and so we didn't have those kinds of conversations, in part because I was in the food, and I wasn't having any real conversations with anyone. But in any case, so here I was, and I certainly got my basic needs met for sure. But there wasn't a lot left over. And I turned to food, and food was always there. Food was constant. It was a companion. It was fun. It was, I played with my food. I don't know if that's a compulsive eater thing, but I always played with my food. And so I started gaining weight when I was about 8. And then, not too long after that, I went into puberty early. I really was gaining weight and starting to get teased. And teased is not a good word for that, really. It was more like bullied, tortured. Um, and that was fair game. There was no telling any teacher or anything. It was the 70s. That was perfectly okay to fat shame. Um, and it was pretty awful not knowing when that was going to come. It felt really hard going out into public. This is more when I got into junior high and high school. And people just felt really comfortable commenting on, even my dear friend's mom, who I just idolized more than once, would do you have such a pretty face, and just the waiting for the unspoken but there was just horrible. So that didn't help me feel like I was a part of any herd. So I decided I became a gossip, and I was funny. And so that got me into the center of my friends, and hence my character defects began or were exemplified. Um, and I picked up other substances. So my parents started encouraging me to go on diets. They paid for me to do, Nutrisystem's weight loss clinic. That was 680 calories a day, and we had to go in every day and pee on a stick, and it was crazy. And I lost the same 60 to 80 pounds probably 3 or 4 times, but I get down to a weight where I didn't, I had to start dealing with life on life's terms, and as far as sexuality, and I was ingesting the things that I now know I'm allergic to, and so it never lasted long, and I really all I wanted to do was just get down in weight so I could eat the way everybody else was eating around me. It was the early 80s when I was in high school. I had a friend who I now would put the term, and she would as well, anorexic on. And I was, misinformed. I thought she had what was the best thing. She was reading the, calorie content on Rolaids and Tums and Pepto-Bismol, which I later ate like they were candy. Um, and I thought that's what I wanted. It was truly only in program that I really got, it's the same up here. It's the same between the ears, or very similar. Um, so I hung out in the 250, 275 range. I'm only 5'1 3/4" now. And maybe I was 5'2". It was the 80s. There was some big hair. But I got used to that, quote unquote. And there was a time when I remember just saying, if I could just get into a size 16, if I could just get under 200 pounds, I'd be happy there, and that wasn't even possible. I was not a good dieter. I could make it until lunch, and that was it. There was no beyond lunch. Um, so I lived alone for about 8 or 9 years. And then I got into my first partnership, and we moved in together. And that was just so illuminating. I don't feel like I thought about it beforehand. Perhaps I did, but I had someone there that was in between me and my food, and that was just not going to work. And I also had someone that was just a mirror right there, and I had to sneak around. I started eating more in my car. I remember a couple of times I forgot to eat something I'd gotten the day before at a drive-through. All my bags and stuff were hidden underneath seats and whatnot. And I'd find something that I'd gotten at a fast food restaurant the day before, and it was a bonus. I never thought about the fact that it could give me botulism. That's the right word, isn't it? You all know what I mean. Um, and it was just, I had to have it. I just had to have it. And I was not a nice partner. I remember one time, she said, I would just hate to be a store clerk when you are mad. And I realized that is, or someone in a car that if, there was no in between, there was no, I'm slightly irritated you as a driver. I'm just enraged. And, I don't think I was enraged with a clerk, but I could annihilate them verbally. And it was thrilling. I got that hit from it.
5 minutes.
So thank you so much. So in this partnership, we dieted together a few times, so I got to fail with someone right there. And I knew at that point, when we'd go into Weight Watchers and they'd have a conversation about, the tips and tricks of not picking up food when you were, at the holidays or whatever. And that just was it was just like, I am not in the same league here. I mean, that I can do because I want to look normal. I may weigh 300 pounds, but I think I'm fooling people because I eat normally at the holidays or whatever. So she said she had a little mini intervention with me, and truly, it was one of the most loving and kind experiences I've had. And she said, I think you're a powerful woman, always a good way to start. And I think if you could have done this on your own, you would have. I don't think you can. I think you're an addict. I think you need help. And, being an addict was certainly a better option than being crazy, which is what I thought. And I'd gone to all kinds of therapists and psychiatrists, and they weren't, they didn't use that word. And so I thought it was, yeah. So being an addict, I knew there was something that could happen, could help me. And so I went to OA. And I'm so grateful. It feels like a God thing that it was in a church that I knew. And so I was familiar with the building, and that got me to be able to go because my social anxiety I could have not gone for years. But I did. And so many wonderful things happened to me in Overeaters Anonymous. I was there for 4 years. Um, and I found a higher power, an ever evolving higher power of my own understanding. I got that I could be one of the chosen ones, which I had tried and didn't think I was. And and I got to realize that I was not alone, that people did crazy things. They snuck food. They were horrible to the people in their lives. Um, and it was the beginning of of knowing where my people were. And no one would talk about the food. I was trying to find out what to eat, even when I got my sponsor. And my sponsor said, well, most people give up the white stuff. Well, okay. So I just went to the health food stores and started eating the same things with just different, healthier sweeteners. So then I had a financial burden because health food was much more expensive. Anyhow, I didn't ever give up on those foods in certain categories. And so lost again the same 60, 80 pounds. Life stuff started coming up. I did a fourth and fifth step, which was really powerful. And I started lying. I added in a cocktail. Well, that seems sensible. People have a cocktail at dinner, just add one, and then it was just, and my head was such a mess. My head was such a mess. Then I start getting the 12 steps in my head, and my belly is just full of the stuff that we don't ingest. And so I went out, and I knew then I didn't know where I could go. And I put on the last 35, 40 pounds. I had a really horrible year, and my relationship broke up, and I got fired from a job. And that's when I went on the camping trip. And I also just feel like I spent much of that's my time. Look at me sticking in the, so here I am at Gray Sheet. They had the glow, these women. It was amazing. I was desperate and dying. It did not matter what they were doing. I had heard really horrible things like committing your food for a month and not being able to make a change. I misheard that, obviously. And so I do what you all do. I argued a couple times with my sponsor. Then I realized that was ridiculous. Who cares if it's fuzz or not fuzz? Um, and so to stay abstinent, I do service. I step up to the service that I think is just beyond what I'm able to do because other people think I can do it. And that helps me to do that in my life. Um, I I have backup in all my cars at work. I stay prepared to deal with whatever no matter what's come up for me. I've had lots of no matter what's. There's always someone to call. That is true when anything happens. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Thank you all for listening. I don't eat no matter what.